Afternoon, everyone. I love a false start, and so I thought I'd have another go and do it in that way. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Helena,
And I'm Kelly.
and we are Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches just like you to build a portfolio business on your terms. And we're also the founders of the Facebook group, the Connection Hub. Kelly's going to pop the link in there in case you are watching us on the Speaker Insight Facebook page. But inside the Connection Hub, we've got and this is part of the buzz from our day. We've got 11,000 members who are sharing opportunities and connecting with professionals like the speaker agents, the publishers, the web designers, people who are really just supporting each other to build your speaker author coach business.
And many of you join us every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, wherever you are around the world, right? Whether it's the morning coffee over the pond or those of you who are watching us in the UK. Tell us hi, tell us where you're watching from. We love to know where our worldwide audience is. Yeah. So just type in the comments where you're watching from and say hi. Obviously, last week we were doing this at 12 o'clock, so we're back on our normal time of 1 p.m. So we get back into the swing of things. And today we're talking about your brand story and how to bring your brand to life. Because really, as speakers, authors, and coaches, we're hardwired as humans to respond to a really good story. So using this to connect with your audience is one of the great ways to stand out. And we're really excited about that. So I actually didn't know that you were in Tennessee. Moni, I didn't know that.
Oh no! Oh yeah, for sure. I'm absolutely aware of that. So Moni definitely joins us to have a morning cup of coffee in some way at this sort of time of the day, which is great. So yeah, it's we're gonna really kick you off with everything that is. So as you are telling us where you are, because we really do like to know. Hey, Carol Pike! My goodness me, that is a name I have not seen in a long time. And of course, you're coming onto this because Carol's all about story and storytelling. So it makes complete and utter sense that you are here. How delicious.
We want you to comment all the way through, Carol, to see if we're on track with your brand and what you teach.
For sure. But before we do that, we want to know, for those of you who have already joined us live and all those of you who are watching on the hashtag replay, please put a hashtag replay and let us know where you're actually from, because it is really, there's something really heartening about the global nature of this wonderful group and the way that the conversations are happening. You know, there are no borders really. So we're going to ask you first and foremost, what is the buzz in your business? What is exciting? What's intriguing? What's happening? What is going on that you need to let us know about?
So lots of you coming from Leicester, from London. I love the fact that Shiggy's having her breakfast at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You're a girl like me. Just blame it on intermittent fasting like I do, Shiggy, not the fact that you don't get around to it. Jill's having a break from report writing. What a good time to have a break. So yeah, tell us what's the buzz in your business, what's going on in your world. Helena alluded to one of our bits of buzz earlier that we've actually just exceeded 11,000 members in the Connection Hub. The link, if you're not in there, please do join. It's basically where all the conversations happen. But also when we hit milestones, like member milestones like this, we always release new features. And so if you're not in the hub, you won't see this new feature that's coming live quite soon. And I think most of you are going to quite like this one.
I think so too.
Moni's teaching about the people how to declutter one drawer this week. God, I hope it's not the drawer in the kitchen that everything in my house goes into.
That drawer, the drawer of doom, I tell you, the drawer of doom.
So the other thing that we want to share a little bit of buzz about, and I'm going to get my notes up for this, is for those of you who joined us last week with the live about intrapreneurship versus entrepreneurship with Beiju. He put an offer out for the whole of last week saying anyone that put some juicy comments up in that live, wherever it was being streamed in our members group, in Speaker Insight, in the Connection Hub, he was offering a free book to 5 of the comments, and he decided us to choose those people that got those 5 books based on their comments. So you might be watching live. I know some of you are because I've seen you comment, and if you're not, I'll tag you in the comments after this. But these are the people who are there's a book coming your way. Stephen Perkis, I know that you're here. You just said that you're watching hashtag live. Sue Rogers, Ian Kay. Yay. Because Ian was actually very complimentary to Beiju on our Clubhouse yesterday. He snuck in there that way rather than a comment on the Facebook Live. Julie Kenny and Joe Fellows. So if you guys are watching say hi in the comments. And also I make sure that you're friends with Beju, because I think he'll probably contact you via Facebook for your postal address. And
Yes.
one of you lucky 5 people will also be getting a free session from Beju too.
Which is amazing. I mean,
Oh,
what's not
Carol's
to...
rebranded as
I
the
know. The
Sparkle
Sparkle
Navigator.
Navigator. I was totally sitting on that one.
I
I'm like,
see why you
Carol.
guys get on.
Well, and it makes sense. And in terms of the history that you've got, that makes entire good sense. Nicola's saying, wanted to thank you for your headshot tips. Got some great pictures. Need to upload them to the website. Share them, Nicola. Actually,
Yeah,
share
share them
your
in the hub.
favorites inside the hub. Like, we would love to see what those are. That's absolutely brilliant. And Shiggy's also saying that she's onboarding, which I really love, onboarding 2 new audio editor contractors and launching her alpha version of the online online
Right.
voice short course. That was quite hard for me to say. I don't know why that was hard for me to say, but it was. And hang on a second.
Nicholas
Who
just
is it?
toppled
Nicola's just toppled.
8,000 followers. Yeah, for one of
Yeah,
your
for
clients.
one of her clients,
Awesome.
which is really great. So there's a lot of really great stuff going on, and the reason that we make you do the buzz is because it is part of your story. So I am going to segue into today's content, obviously, but it is part of your story. It is so much better. And on a Monday, we always do a What's the Buzz post anyway in the Connection Hub. So if you're not in there, it's a really great way of just sharing what's going on for you in your business, and it makes it so much easier for people to reach out to you. Now, that's about you. Today, we're actually going to talk all about the hero's journey and indeed the brand story, because many of you will probably know the book I'm already referring to. But today, we're really going to take a good look at Joseph Campbell's hero's journey first, as a first thing, because it's so, so powerful as a base for you telling your stories, creating your products, creating your programs in some way. Now, many people have already used the core concept of this in their work. So Tony Robbins is a great example of this. He literally bases pretty much everything he does. If you really go and dissect it, he bases all of it on the hero's journey. And more recently, Donald Miller, which is what we're going to talk about at the second part of this, really has used it to, but by transplanting it into the marketing setting. So the hero's journey is used. I mean, you are faced with the hero's journey every single day, I promise you. Because if you watch TV, if you watch movies, if you listen to Radio 4 plays, if you are reading books, you pretty much are following the hero's journey, whether you know it or not. What we want to do is we want to bring that really conscious in the same way that Donald has then done to really help people market their business, but using the elements of that story. So we're going to go through the purest version of it first, and then we're actually going to look at how someone's hybrided it. Now, why is that important? It's important for 2 reasons. One, because we obviously want you to be better at marketing, because speakers, authors, and coaches who want to change the world, change makers in themselves. We want that for you, right? But the second piece is that I love the idea of us showing you the purest form of something, and then how someone has used their expertise and experience to actually take that concept and then build something around it. So for those of you who kind of go, I'm not creative in this way, actually, this is just an example at a meta level for you to do this. So before I kind of kick anything off around all of this, Kelly's obviously popped the link through to the book, but she's going to tell you all about that in a second. But for all of you, have you got a brand story? The title of this is How to Create Your Brand Story. So right now, whether you do it on a scale of 1 to 10, I sort of have a brand story, I haven't got one, I've totally got it nailed. We want to know what that is for you, whilst we tell you a little bit more about the purest form.
We hope that Carol's is definitely a 10, right?
Hell yes. Hell yes.
And really interesting you're saying about the iterations of stuff, because as speakers, authors, and coaches, we all know, and we've done this on trainings we've done on intellectual property, that there isn't really a lot of new information out there. It's just the way that you position and package it with your own spin, with your own story, with your own experience, which is what Donald did on Joseph Campbell's work. And even I think it was this week, David Poole put up in the Connection Hub the GROW model and the framework, and people were going, yeah, I use that, and I add an S here, and I blah, 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 blah. And it just shows that this is what we want you to do, and it makes you really memorable and easy to work with and to actually illustrate the journey that you take people on.
For sure.
Because as Helena was saying, all stories follow this common narrative structure of the hero's journey. Whether you think about anything from like Harry Potter down to, Star Wars. Star Wars is a great example, right, of the hero's journey, every single
Matrix.
one.
Yeah, the whole
They all
thing.
follow this narrative story. And this is really what makes compelling, gripping storytelling happen, where people just can't wait, because there are peaks and troughs, right, in everything, and you don't start off with the explosive scene right at the beginning of the movie. There's that, this
No,
first
no,
bit.
you
So
you you usually start off with dark and dank. I invite you to go back and actually look at all three of the movies we've just actually talked about and or booked, sort of in this instance. You'll see that it actually starts in the darkness.
in the darkness, yeah. So what this does is it's actually a breakdown of how we learn experientially. So that's one of
Mm,
the things that we love. When you're just taught theory, it only goes one level deep. But when you're actually learning experientially, it stays in the system, it's in your cells, it's in that knowingness, so you can access that quite easily.
yeah.
And we all go through a process and a path that can be defined. And that's exactly what Joseph Campbell sets out in the hero's journey. So
Mm.
I don't know who that is. It's number 4, but if you could check
It's
that
Nicola.
out.
It's Nicola.
Oh, Nicholas. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm
so
still waiting to
you
see
you've
Carol's
got
number.
you've got some juicy stuff that's actually kind of
Yes,
coming in
we're in the
here
right place today. Yeah.
for
So the
sure.
outline of experience usually follows this part. So I wanted you to think about your own journey when I'm going through the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Yeah,
Um, and because what you'll see is that all of your experiences in this, all the stories really are the same,
for
greater or
sure.
lesser, or whatever the context is, they're all the same, and they mirror this archetypal story.
Yeah.
And this unknown that people go into, whether it's the dark that you were just talking about before,
Yeah.
it's different. The context is different from everyone, but this is really where the growth happens.
Yeah.
This is where the change happens, the transformation happens. And so it's really good for you to understand, are you about to enter that stage in your journey?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people, like, some of the comments that have been going on in the Connection Hub over the last 2 to 3 weeks have been around, I feel like I'm in hibernation even though it's
Yeah.
spring, blah blah blah. There's an energy of potency, but there's also because you're speakers, authors, and coaches, and that by very nature makes you creative people. There is also a real kind of an angst around the whole. I'm sitting in the space where the muse is coming in, but I'm impatient to get on with things. And I think
Yeah.
that piece of the unknown is also one of the things that shows up, right?
Especially with the change makers we work with, I think I've used this expression quite a lot of times in the last month or so with them, that when an egg is fertilizing, you want the chick to break from the inside out, because it needs to go through that pressure, it needs to go through that growth, it needs to go through that pain, it needs to go through that unknown,
Yeah.
in order to then have the resources, the unknown, the ability, the resilience, the knowledge to then break through the shell. If you're trying to crack that open too early, you're just going to get like yolk on the floor, and it's not going to turn into anything.
Yeah.
And the same as, like, we talk about, diamonds being created under pressure and all these types of things. That's really where the unknown sits. And then
Yeah.
the transformation, when you come out from the caterpillar to the butterfly, is the next stage of the journey. So it's really good for you to acknowledge where you're at when
Yeah.
we're going through these stages of the hero's journey.
And for some of you, the more original kind of terms for these, some of you may resonate more with, we go along, we can do our steady kind of living, and that would be the ordinary world. But somewhere along the line, I'm going to say this, whether you are passionate about something, when you suddenly kind of really galvanize the passion that you have for something, or whether you get really pissed off, which is also passion, about something, you come out of the ordinary and you have to go on an adventure, and that's
Yeah.
really kind of where it sits as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So as Helena said, I put the link to the Heroes with a Thousand Faces book in the
it is
comments.
it is a very good, it is a very big book.
Get the Kindle version.
Yes, it is a very
Which is the
hefty
link we
book,
put.
I'm just telling you.
And also the paperback is really expensive as well. So
Yeah. Yes, for sure. The paperback is like 30 quid and the Kindle version is about 10 quid. So, you go figure. But also, it's great for those of you who really like and work with archetypes. And you may
Yeah.
find that there's enough in what Kelly and I actually talked to you about for you to have the grounding on it. Brilliant to go back to the source material, though. And it is a jolly fine read, but it takes a little while.
So what we're going to do is Helena's going to share the screen and just put the actual whole framework and the user journey up, and
Yeah.
we're just going to talk through the various points. As I said, it's really good.
Yeah. Hold on.
You haven't
I'm
read
just,
the book. You watched the PBS series, but you haven't watched the book. You read the book, yeah.
yeah.
And I don't think it's, hands up. I haven't read the book, so I've just been doing it from archetypal training and all those things that we've spoken about.
Yeah.
Tony's into the hero's journey as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably put that image up as a screen in the
Yeah,
comments after, so you can download.
I will. I just wanted you to see it right now, just so that you've
Yeah.
got an idea of what we're going to be talking through. But we're going to take you through each one of these stages. So I might kind of flash it up every now and then.
No, just keep it up, I think, because it's quite good
Yeah,
for people. They don't need to see our ugly
great.
faces. It's
No,
fine.
it's not like they don't see us all the time, isn't it? Right. So, so I'll pop this one on there so that you can hear us talking.
So
And it's all
really,
good.
so this is a great place to take notes. It might be notes about where you are on your brand. It might also be where your products and your services and your user journey fits for when you're actually working with clients as coaching. And then we'll talk about this later on, which is another version of the hero's journey, which is actually more the marketing, which is talking a little bit more about your customers. But let's look at this first of all. So where we want you to start is in the part 1 in the blue section. And this is really where the call to the adventure is, where this all starts. So this is when, if you've moved from your day job, and you've decided to jump ship and, become a speaker, author, or coach, then this is the bit where you go, okay, so I'm going to step into my purpose. I've discovered what my reason is to be in the world. I've discovered what my USP is, what my passion is, all those things, whether it's the peeved or passion that Helena was talking about. This is where you get triggered to start going, who am I and what am I all about? And why am I even here? What do I want to do? A lot of people get to that midlife crisis and start to go, is this it? All right, is this what life's all about? So this is actually where people start to actually take that step on a new pathway, and they realize, this is when, we look at the famous films that we were related to. This is where they understand that they're destined for something different. They've got something that they have to achieve. There is this challenge. There is this quest or journey that they're on. And then they've accepted. This is what they do. They accept that journey. They go, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to make that decision. I'm ready to burn the bridges and do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Tony said, a good way is in The Writer's Journey by Christopher Vogler, which is for writers, but also useful for business storytellers. Brilliant. I haven't heard that one. That's brilliant. I know that's quite a lot. We'll check that one out, Tony. So what could also happen in this stage as well is that you might feel like, oh, bloody hell, I don't want to do this. I know that's what I really should be doing. But for a lot of people at this stage, you have to get uncomfortable, don't you? You have to get out of your comfort zone and do something different. Because, you might have the ego freak out, the imposter syndrome, the fact that you just don't know how to do this new thing. So therefore you're like struggling and going, I really want to do it, but I'm really desperate to understand. I need some support in order to do this. So there might be that refusal and this reluctance to the change. Were you going to say something, Helena?
I was. I actually know the book, and as soon as I saw the cover, I was like, I know the book that Tony was talking about, and it's a really brilliant version of this for those of you who are writers. So that thing that I was saying earlier on around you can apply this in very many ways. This is actually the same kind of thing, taking that on. Now, what I was also going to say was sometimes that reluctance doesn't show up as reluctance. It shows up as you digging your heels in, actually kind of cowering in the face of everything and really being resistant. So there is a scale of refusal that actually goes in. And the more you are refusing, we find this very often, the more you're refusing, the more the thing won't go away. We're just going to say that. So it's like it's going to keep on coming on. That's it. It's like, forget the feather touch, forget the little nudge on the shoulder. It's like a great big slap across the face sometimes that just says, come on.
Yeah. And so, we know lots of people that have been in this blue stage for years, right? Grappling with the fact that they know that it's tugging at their heartstrings, but they're not ready yet. They're not ready to face the fear. And it's only really when you commit and you
Yeah,
cross that first threshold,
yeah,
and you basically bust those myths, you get out of your own way, you work on your own self-beliefs, and you basically make this, you accept the quest, you accept the challenge, and you
for
take
sure.
that first step over the threshold
Yeah,
into the purple zone, right? And so this is where, when people are in the purple zone, this is actually where we start to meet a lot of people on our own brand story,
for sure.
because this is where they actually go, I need the person that's going to guide me through this new pathway. As we were
Yeah,
saying before, a lot of people don't know how to do those, and that's why they're refusing the call. But as
yeah.
soon as you have that first step of meeting the mentor,
Mm.
now that person might not be a paid business person, right? That person could be your granny. It could be the person sitting at the bus stop that just gave you this insight. It's the little Yoda that you
Yeah.
come across, right?
That's it. And it might not even be a person at all. It could be the book
Yes.
or books that we've literally just put in place. So bear in mind that your mentor or guide likely isn't just one, but is also available in many different formats, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think this is also where you get tested
Yeah.
at this stage, right? And this
Yeah.
is I find it's very much a test for them. So before the universe is slapping you around, giving you all these signs to move forward, then when you do move forward, it goes, how much do you really want this? And it
That's
sort of
it.
tests you to go, is this what you think you want, or are you willing to carry on this no matter what? So they will start throwing you some left wing obstacles, coming at
Yeah.
you going, distracting here. Oh, look at this, is the nice shiny object to the right. You don't
Yeah.
want that, you want this.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get tested by the universe for temptations. You're also more than likely going to get tested from your friends and family,
Oh,
right?
hell yes.
This
That
goes into our conversation last week about entrepreneurship, right? About, people that have their own businesses seem to be like people with three heads to somebody who's self-employed, because they don't understand the
yeah.
mindset, the mentality, the working hours, the passion,
Yeah.
all of that comes with owning your own business. And when you're employed, it's like, well, I finish at 6, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
do any more tonight. So you're going to
Exactly.
get a lot of that testing, not just from temptation, do you want this, but also from the people in your intimate circle.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons that we actually set up the Connection Hub is because having like-minded, like-valued people along the journey, that whole you don't actually have to do this on your own. And it's certainly
Yeah.
why we set up our membership, sort of was because of this whole, we know that this is part of the story. When you are in the unknown, when you're in the adventure, you are going out and you will be tested. So actually having or presenting people with a resource that feels like a safe harbor for you to go back out in the wilderness is actually part of the reason why we've got this group of people, right?
A lot of the time, what most people find is they find a new tribe.
Yeah,
They
this
find a
is it.
new tribe of people that align with this new quest.
Yeah,
This is the quest that was before, and it's not saying you have to choose either or, but it's finding the people to surround yourself with that are supportive and are going to help you along that way.
for sure. I'm going to pop this
Stephen
back up.
saying, yeah, still not totally there yet. It feels like I'm avoiding the big thing, my printing press for the holographic universe, but realize there has to be a step one. There
Beautiful.
certainly does, Stephen. And again, I haven't got my phone up at the moment, but
I do. I can see
okay.
this. So we've got the. Oh, hang on a minute. Where's it gone? It
Follow
is.
your bliss
I,
one. I don't know
yeah.
who's
So I say follow your bliss and don't be. Oh, there we go. And don't be afraid. And the doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, which is exactly what he says, and it's absolutely wonderful. So that saying of follow your bliss. That's actively where we're coming into. For some reason, it flashed up at me who that was. Whoever you are, brilliantly shared. Thank you so much. Delicious.
Okay, so then what happens when we're in this stage here and we are being tested, then what we also need to do is actually go to your innermost cave, right?
Hmm.
This is actually like the cocoon stage of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, because this is actually where you need to do the internal work, right? This is
Hmm.
the deep work on yourself, facing your inner critic, healing the wounded self, dealing with the inner child, dealing with your saboteur profile, the
Yeah.
victim mentality, all these things. And you see, this is the place where you don't go and you go and lick your wounds, but this is actually where, once you've done this stuff,
Yeah.
then it gives you sort of permission to actually the mirror of the outside world changes,
Yeah.
rather than just flick it off a minute, Helena, just
Sure
so I can
thing.
show.
Will do.
I say a lot of people that get really frustrated when they're doing trying to change their results, and I'm going, stop trying to brush your hair in the mirror, because that's not going to change. You have to brush your hair on your own head in order to see the reflection in the mirror of nice smooth hair. And
For
so
sure.
that's what we're saying in this stage here in the approach, is to go, you'll see this in the journey. Where is it that you did that real deep soul searching, transformational inner work that
Yeah,
then had the knock-on effects on the outside results and experience?
for
Sorry, I didn't mean
sure.
to. If you can flick that back up, that'd be
No,
great. Just
we'll do. No, no, no. I'm just going to keep flicking us back on and off, and we'll just keep on teaching you. No, everybody's writing frantically right now. That's what I'm making up, and they're like, oh my gosh, right, there's something else. So then what happens, Kelly?
So we get into the reward stage, right? Once you've done, I was just saying, this is where the results start to happen. So, when you're actually looking at how to actually rewrite your story. So you knew what the quest was, you
Oh,
knew what the thing.
actually, I'm just going to take you back one step, just because you do actually have that dark night of the soul, the cave where you're doing a lot of learnings. But because
Oh yeah,
you've
I
done that
completely
bit of
didn't do the
learning,
ordeal.
I
Yeah.
was going to say, you just miss out the biggest bit, love. That's fine, sort of because I'm just going to keep you on track on that one. But when we actually have pulled out the learnings, when we've got that new perspective, the second test comes in, and it may be a sort of, sometimes it's a subtle test, sometimes it's another big whammy, because actually it's going to challenge you as you are newly born into this new reality of yours, because you are taking a new view out into the world, and so you're going to get confronted with that change. You're going to kind of get your newer beliefs tested, and actually new beliefs aren't as ingrained in you as they could be, right? So this is actually the place where you are going to be invited to really transcend the pain of leaving something behind, of letting something go in some way. So you do the inner work, but then the outer work actually tests that you've got the resolve with that. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, just trying to give some context to it, really. So, when we look at some people, I'm not going to name names, but there's somebody who I know who basically was really been doing the work on themselves to become a speaker, and really put their message out there, and then got to that level where they were ready to start taking paid gigs, and then COVID happened. So they've gone through this
Oh,
whole thing.
yeah.
So we were at this stage, as you're saying, they've got this new skill, they've got this new mission, and then the new test, the ordeal of the new test
Yeah.
was actually, well, then we're not going to give you any speaking gigs because there aren't any out there. So the new test for them was then learning the new skill of digital and how can they interact and, do it that way. Now that
And
they've got to
continuing.
actually, to continue that quest, but in a new guise with a new level of skill set to deliver digitally. So, that's a real baseline level, but just to show you what we mean by, not taking them off the path, but going, there might be another test as you get to that stage.
For
And
sure.
then that's where the breakthrough happens. That's where we were getting. I'm always going to go straight
Yeah.
to the rewards.
I know
But
you
that's
are. I know. That was why I was like, no, let's just tell people, like don't skirt over the fact that the test comes, lovely.
But when you get the rewards, this is where the alignment happens. You can see where that person's values and vision and mission and all the things that they've learned along the way, they
Yeah.
start to actually become the golden thread. You start to get there. You're either, Arthur taking the sword out of the stone, whatever it might be, right? You're there, and, you didn't expect that to happen. And the rewards come, and it's really an abundant stage for you.
Yeah.
And that's the proof of the hard work. It's where you don't have the overnight success.
For
Most
sure.
people go, okay, where's the success in the purple part of the hero's journey? When you're going to get some,
Sure.
but that's like just the little breadcrumbs that keep
It's
you
like
on,
a hint.
keep you going. The
Yeah.
real reward is always something much bigger than you'd normally even expected to be the reward.
And the thing is, it's usually something that you imagined times 10. Like it's 10 to the
Yes.
power of, it's something that almost blindsides you, and you just go, never in my wildest dreams. And you hear that a lot, don't you?
Yeah, it's that the law of reciprocation type of thing. Even
Yeah.
though you've not been doing the work because you're so focused on the quest, on the vision, on the call to action, the
Yeah.
adventure, that you've been putting all that energy in, and this is where it comes back and just whacks you slaps you on the back really, and goes, well
Well
done.
done. Right, I'm going to pop that back
And
up
so
to the
and
last
so then
section.
Yeah, the last section is a real beautiful section to be in. It's also that place of service, right?
Mm,
So this is where we're looking at going, okay, so you've pretty much achieved what you've done to the call to adventure. Then
yeah,
how can you amplify that? How can you give that energy back? How can you start that circle again, or that cycle again, even for somebody else, if not for yourself? So this is where, very much, I think we were even talking about this in last week's live, that
yeah,
actually you completely detach. This is
yeah,
the detachment level. So
for
you're
sure.
not doing things for a result. You're doing it because you're so in flow and
Yeah,
you're so aligned. And if things are just happening, you're still having to take action,
yeah,
but that forgiveness, that gratitude, that flow, all of that stuff is happening.
yeah,
And this is actually where the self mastery
for
happens.
sure, for sure.
Because when you drive a car, and when you've mastered driving, you can listen to the radio, talk on your hands free, put some lippy on, change gears, all at the same time.
Yeah,
When you're at the beginning of your own hero's journey, everything has to have that precision focus because you're learning stuff. When you're
mm,
in the green stage, you've mastered it all, so you can really be present in there, and
yeah.
you can actually feel that your current reality,
Yeah.
actually you lose the self-awareness in that stage, don't you?
Well, here's the thing. It becomes your new norm.
Yeah.
That's the key. Sort of like, so you return with all the goodies, right? And you return willing to share. So I'm going to take this off just so that you've got it. Because what happens at this point is you've made it through the adventure, and now you're almost kind of, you come through the unknown, and now it is known. So your impetus is to come and share that with any and everyone who'll listen. You're bringing back the gifts, but you're also bringing back the gift of you, the
Yeah.
new you, so to speak. And here's what becomes really interesting. That will keep you going for a while, and it becomes your new ordinary. It becomes your new known. It is just how you be and who you be. But the brilliant thing about that is it then bubbles up again, and you just go, oh, it's time for a new adventure. And
But
different people
and the
have different
creative,
stages in terms of the creators, right?
I mean, you creatives, this is like the book writing process. This is like the new keynotes. This is the new coaching programs, because, once you're in that green stage of the mastery stage, it's a lovely place to be guided and teach and, build that following. But because many creatives go, oh, I've got itchy feet now, I've been doing that for 2 or 3 years. And in the sideline, because they've mastered this, they've
Yeah.
actually been developing another skill, another hobby, another element string to their bow.
Kelly is describing the ideal situation here. What I know to be true is that most of you actually don't reap the full rewards in the green bit. You just want to go back into the adventure before you've actually shared every juicy morsel and allowed all of the village, in this analogy, to actually catch up and learn what you've learned before you go back off with your backpack and onto your adventure. And this actually is the bit that, and I'm being serious, I'm being flippant, but I'm being really serious, because what we find with a lot of speakers, authors, and coaches is that they don't stay in this ordinary phase for long enough to really bed in all
Yeah.
of that wisdom and share all of that love, all of that nurturing that is available through the journey that they share. Because either you're dismissing it, or B, or, or you are letting it go in favor of the new adventure. So you're not actually building things that allow people to take part of, to benefit from your experience.
Yeah. And I think that's why our passion is to help you guys create those portfolio style businesses,
Yeah,
because when you're in that new ordinary, we really want you to create something that's a legacy piece there.
yeah,
So whether that is a book or an online course, or whether you're training the trainers to carry on being that person,
yeah,
teaching that lesson that's really been valuable for you before you go off on a new adventure,
yeah,
what's the footprint that you've left behind that
that's it.
keeps people that are on the same journey as you were then to get the wisdom without you having to be there?
And What will make sure that they stay in the village whilst you're off with your backpack, kind of finding out the next level of stuff, right? So you want to be leaving them some juicy stuff that allows them to stay on the journey with you a little bit further behind you. If you think of that as an analogy, that really is where we're actually kind of going for. So we just had another little hi,
Hi from
Diane.
Australia.
Hang on a second. That would be good evening. Yeah, good evening for sure. Yeah, I believe. Oh, hang on a minute. You're a night owl. Hang on. Right. Yeah. Well, in that case, I wish you sleep soon, which is good. But so
So,
we hope that you get this little bit, and as you can tell, we're very excited about this. I always liken it to this. Hi, Joe. So I always liken it to this. You are all delicious hot air balloons, and when you get to this green bit, we have to actually pull you back down and go, "Hey, what'd you see?" And then, you tell us everything. We help you put it into, things that actually can educate other people, so that because they may not have the privilege or the courage to go up in their hot air balloon. And then once you've actually done that, you've left some things behind. Now we say, yeah, go look at what else you can find up there. So you need to be in this regular cycle of stopping, which is why, at the end of this quarter, we're actually gathering all our change makers together and helping them plan for the next quarter. You can do it in this way. If school were like this, I might have bothered attending more.
attending.
Kelly,
I
there's a
was also
whole new
laughing.
thing.
I thought that you were actually going to end that by saying that most of our audience is just full of hot air.
I wouldn't say that. I just wouldn't say that. It's cool. Diane,
Okay.
11
So
o'clock is completely doable. So, right.
So
So,
that hero's journey bit is just, again, to give you context. We'd love for you to know. I know some of you have said like what sort of stage you think you're currently on your current quest of adventure,
for sure.
and then whatever you need support, ask us for that. But that gives you the basic foundation of what we're going to talk about now,
Yeah.
which is actually your brand story and how you can use this sort of process with your own marketing.
But we hope that you really get that actually you need, your hero's journey. You can start to look at your own history with a hero's journey perspective on, and go, how is that true for me? Because what's important about the hero's journey for you is you can start to extract that and tell the story, tell the story of what you're passionate about, and really sort of support people in you creating the impact that you want to make, right? Because the key thing is that once these things are known, once you know what is known, but also once you have an idea of what the unknown is, it's not unknown for you now, but it is likely unknown for all of your audience. And that's really important, because there are those, who really need that source of learning, so that they don't have to go out in the wilderness for as long as you did. They can actually take the shortcut because you've already begun to set the route out. Because that's actually where a lot of speakers, authors, and coaches build their businesses from.
Yeah.
They've experienced something and they are passionate enough to say, I never want you to experience this. So benefit from my quest out into the wilderness. Let me unpack it. Let me actually systemize it. Let me show you how to take those steps, or at least what to pack for the journey if you need to go on it for yourself. Does that make sense?
And this is why in our own diagram, I know the change makers that are watching, where we use our lighthouse, our
Yeah.
change maker lighthouse principles, you
Yeah.
become the light.
Yes.
Because the light in the unknown of the darkness, as we were talking about here, you
Yeah.
become that guiding light. So people are looking at you going, where's the lighthouse? Which direction should I be following? Is it time to go now or not? And so that people are literally using you as their guide. And
For
so
sure.
we've incorporated that in our own brand, in our own
Yeah.
brand story, and who you become as light workers, change makers, and thought leaders. So
Yeah.
again, it's just something to be aware of, that, this is where we find most people, what's common sense isn't common knowledge.
That's
And
right.
people, you think that people need to know much more than what they needed to know when they didn't know anything either. So it's a
That's it.
reminder of where to keep your messaging.
Yeah. So I want to get really practical because we like to get really practical on you. So in our own course, in the Power Up Your Purpose course, for those of you who are still a little bit uncertain about how does my experience actually relate to this, how can I possibly monetize that? Sort of we really help you to identify, articulate, and monetize that experience. So for those of you who are still a little bit lost or stuck around that, Kelly's going to pop a link in for you on that one. For those of you who've been listening to this and actually going, oh, hang on a minute, I could actually use this. I get the idea of it. Let me make that more tangible for you. Because the hero's journey, as we said, for those of you writing screenplays, you definitely need to pay attention to this for those who are writing in that way. But for those of you who are actually in a, whether you're in a B2B or B2C business, you literally can use the hero's journey as part of your product development for sure. Every product has a hero's journey element to it. So pulling that out will help you develop a really robust product. Any presentations? Nancy Duarte wrote a fantastic book called Resonate, which really, for those of you who need to do sort of slide-led presentations, etc., this is just a Bible as far as this goes. I love this book. But to design your presentations, weirdly, that story arc, because we are as humans, we are hardwired for story, right? So that arc is what you actively need. I'm just going to pull this forward a little bit because the sun is creeping around sooner than I thought it would, which is good. Any new phase or thing that you're stepping into, be aware before you step into the adventure that this adventure phase is going to come. What resilience have you learned from previous things that actually allow you to go, okay, great, I'm in the unknown. I guess this is where it's kind of biting me. Or that test that Kelly was talking about. I call it the bar bend, and there's a different reason for that. I'll tell you all at some other point. But now, the biggest piece that we want to really allude to is you can definitely use it as part of your marketing. So it's
Yeah.
not just for you and what you do, but you can use it in your marketing to attract people to you. So that's really where we want to take this, in that promise of Donald Miller literally took this into this story arc and actually turned it into something else that's really useful.
And so that's hopefully helping for Hannah, who's saying, can I incorporate this into my 3 key messages, my marketing blurb, and my story? So not so much on the 3 key messages that we teach in Changemaker, because that's got quite a specific format to it for
Structure,
Hannah, but
yeah.
definitely within your marketing blurb and your story, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, your bio, all those types of things are where these elements can be used. So I've just I've dropped the link. If you can put the Nancy book in, Helena, that you just
I will
if
do.
you've got
I
that
will do.
hands.
You talk for a minute and I'll pop Nancy
Yeah.
in. Sorry, you know how it is. It's like something always comes up from either of our experiences.
So I've also referenced the Donald Miller book that Helena was talking about, which is actually what the brand story is actually based on, that we're going to talk about now. And the interesting part with this is that what he talks about in this book is that he doesn't encourage you to tell a brand story around your own brand, because it's pretty much, when we talk about you talking about yourself, people don't really care, right?
No.
What they want to know is what's in it for me. And so he uses this brand story evaluation and process, but he has your customer as the hero of the story, right? And so therefore they're feeling on part of the journey. They can see themselves as part of your brand and part of the user journey and where they are. They can see themselves in that, and that's where they're interested. That's where you get the buy-in. So there's the link to both of the we're going to take you through the Donald process now.
Yeah.
The Donald process.
The SB7 process, darling. That's how it really works. So many of you already laud and applaud this book, and it is a really great and very simple to read book that will help you to pull out the elements of it. And what I will do is there's it helps you refine your brand story through some of these elements. So if I was to really kind of say it, it actually comes up in a sentence, which I think is really smart and clever. So I'm just going to say it as a sentence, then I'm going to unpack it. And then if you really want to, you can either go get the book or go to mystorybrand.com so that you can download the visual that I'm just going to kind of share with you as well. But if you think about it this way, a character has a problem and meets a guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action that helps them avoid failure and ends in success. So that's actually kind of the story in itself, in kind of one sentence, if you like. So I'll do it again. A
How
character.
simple.
I know, right? Now, that's a whole teaching methodology for those of you who are very familiar in our world.
Creating
That actually comes
frameworks.
in. That's it. So, a character has a problem and meets a guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action that helps them avoid failure and ends in success. So, if you think about it from that perspective, that is brilliant. So, let me break that down for you, fully aware that I probably need to do this in about 5 minutes flat, which is amazing. Diane says, I
Oh,
have no
you
volume.
don't
Can
have a
everyone else
volume.
hear? My
Give us
hope
a
is that we haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, my hope is that everybody else can. Hopefully, the captions are coming up automatically for you, Diane, and that would make me very happy.
Please,
'Cause
anyone else that watching, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us,
yeah,
so that we
my
know that we're not going to go
my
into
my
this detailed process.
because I really want you to be able to get it. In the meanwhile, what I am going to do is I'm going to pop this up, and you just watch for the answer. So if you go to mystorybrand.com, you will actually see this. So they highlight this in the book. The book is really good, so I really do recommend that you get the book as well as do this. Oh yeah, I can hear that,
Nicholas,
Kelly.
I just listened
Great.
myself, and Nicholas just put a thumbs up, so it must be your end, Diane.
Fantastic. So Diane, you know you can always watch the replay, which is great. So great. Thank you all. So what I've put up here is the brand story framework that they very helpfully, and I say very helpfully, this is what you can and could and should do with your products too. In the book, there is a link directly through to mystorybrand.com, which allows you to actually download this. So let me
Yeah,
go
we put
through
it in the
these 7
comments,
phases.
so
Yeah.
they should be
So
able to download it.
brilliant. So, a character. Now, so the principles behind this really are that the character is the customer is the hero, as Kelly said, not the brand. So, need we say more? Like, this is all about avatar, because it's never about you, it's always about them. I personally think that Donald must have seen my full intentions somewhere, is all I can say. But if you think about it, the speakers, authors, coaches, Kelly and I, and or you, we are the guide. They are the hero. They need to see themselves as the hero. We're Yoda. They're Luke Skywalker. Sort of it's this whole, you are creating for them. We have to pay attention. So for those of you who did the avatar challenge, we have to pay attention to what they want, or they're never going to pay attention to us. So a character has a problem. So the second principle that Donald works with, is companies tend to sell solutions to external problems, but customers buy solutions to the internal problems they perceive. So people buy on feelings. They actually kind of select your solution on the back of the feeling that they have about the problem that is externally out in the world. So this is classic kind of wants and needs. We need to name the chaos that they find themselves in so that they understand that we understand, and that we actually might just be the people that can help them. And we have to go deep. So again, if you remember on day 3, I think, of the Avatar Challenge, it's this whole go 3 layers deep. So what? So
So
what?
what? So
So
what?
what?
So
So
what?
what? So what? So what? Kind of really, truly. One of the very first modules that we do in our 90-day Kickstarter is exactly that. It's focused on what is the avatar's problem? Who is the avatar and what is their problem? And usually that has an emotional context. Were you going
And
to
I
say
think that's
something?
really important to just to highlight here, that when we're talking about the problem, that we don't just talk about the logical the logical problems that they have. We have to use the emotive language, right? Which
Yeah.
is random coming from me and not you.
Yeah.
It's having that checklist of all the facts.
Yeah.
That's not what's going to make them have the purchasing decision. It's when you tap into, and what does that mean to them? What's
That's
the
right.
consequences? How are they feeling about that? So just remember, this is emotive language in this section.
Yeah. Tony's making me smile with Helena's story about the character and the problem reminds me of the song "There's a Hole in My Bucket, Dear Liza, Dear
You
Liza."
can't say that line without singing it, can you? I read
Nope.
it and there was already
I couldn't. I had to say. I had to sing. I apologize to everyone. I'll continue now. So we've done 2 stages. A character has a problem. Next, and meets a guide. So here's the big thing around this. this. Customers aren't looking for another hero. They're looking for the guide to help them out of the problem that they've got. So this is the character that helps them, the hero, win. So we're the sidekick, if you like, that really is the cheerleader. We're Obi-Wan or we're Yoda to their Luke Skywalker. Walker. For those of you who really liked, the whole kind of Katniss Everdeen
Yes.
stories. Yes, that's it. Amazing, amazing, amazing. But we are Haymitch, sort of we're the drunken sot, kind of that revives himself as a result of the hero showing up. So we really revive ourselves in the face of being able to support and help people. So your brand isn't the hero, it's you. Sorry, your brand isn't the hero, you're not the hero, you are the guide to them, the hero.
And I'd really love to challenge you on this by asking and looking at your marketing copy, looking at the way you come across.
Yes.
How are you showing yourself that you're walking alongside your customers rather than being the hero that's got the limelight and all the glorification and everyone should listen to me? Because actually, yes, the people are going to have infatuation and put people on a pedestal and want to listen to those people. But actually, the world that we're creating here as the guide, we're saying, how are you holding their hand? How are you walking alongside them? How are you gently moving them in the right direction as a supportive guide rather than dragging them as the lead?
Yeah. So a character has a problem and meets a guide. We've done those bits. 4 more to go, and then we'll let you go. And yes, catch the rest on the replay. Apologies, we knew we were going to get really excited about this one, so no. In fact, I'm going to retract the apologies and just tell you. Yeah, that's right. No apologies, I tell you, because it's juicy. Could we give us a couple examples of what that looks like in that kind of copy?
As in, you mean walking alongside people, Fahana?
Yeah.
If so, then yes, we'll think of something, but also it might be something we can
Kelly, just go to speakerinsight.com.
Yeah, it's us. Just look at our website.
Let me make that really easy. Go to the homepage of speakerinsight.com. And in fact, Fahana, because you're one of the change makers, go to the membership site and look at the homepage of that as well. Both of those actually work. So a character has a problem and meets a guide who gives them a plan. Thanks, Carol. Now, customers aren't so the customers trust the guide who has a plan. So it's not just enough to hold up your hand and kind of say, so I'm just going to come away from this for a second. So it's not just enough to kind of be the person that sits there and goes, I've got the answers, I've got all of the answers. Because what that does is it creates what we don't want for you, which is you being beholden to your customers. We want you to create something that lasts for a long time, that allows you to be alongside, but not necessarily beholden or swapping time for money in some way. Because by now you actually have a plan for what needs to happen. By now you know what they want, you've defined those 3 levels of problems, you've laid out the path, and in our case, we really help people define their user journey so that they can make their products that just make sense. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind that, but actually those things can be done independently of us. The juicy bit is you can actually have a guide that walks alongside you for a little while, but this is where you really do need to break it down enough for them to follow a path or a plan. You have to make it really, really clear. The next stage of this is, it's all well and good having those things, but if you're not asking, nothing happens. So you have to. So a character has a problem, meets a guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action. So sometimes it's up to you as their guide to go, and what are you going to do now that you know this? Because you can't unknow any of the stuff that you actually now know about why you've got a problem, about what the problem looks like. You've even got here's what you need to do to solve the problem. But you need to make the step, that commitment piece that Kelly actually kind of was speaking about. We become that stage between the blue and the purple. We become that stage that actually calls them into, we become their universe, if you like. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, purely because this call to action is really important, because remember we were saying about stepping over that threshold from the known to the unknown.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do next. they don't know what's in that abyss of the unknown at the bottom part of the hero's journey. So if
Yeah.
you're not saying, one, the plan should give them the roadmap that gives
Yeah.
them that, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. And
Hmm.
then you need to go, and are you ready to take that first step?
That's right.
Because this is
That's
what you
right.
need to do, right?
And you have to make it really clear. You have to make it really clear for them. So as part of the building the story brand, you have to be engaging, you have to engage them, but you have to make an invitation of some kind. Or sometimes you just need to clout them around the head and say, come on, sort of in this way. So a character has a problem, meets a guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action. That helps them avoid failure. So here's the next little piece, right? Every single one of us doesn't want the tragedy. They don't want the negativity. They don't want the toxicity. They need to understand what's at stake. So your job at this point is not just to call them to action, but to tell them the consequences of what happens if they take the action, but also if they don't take the action. So you have to show them the cost of not doing business with you. And it's okay. And you are allowed to do this because actually they have a problem that they want to solve. And they already know that and they're tied into that. What they're now choosing is the guide to do it. If you are brave enough and honest enough to show them what might happen or how much longer they might spend in the wilderness if they don't choose to work with you, then sort of you're missing a trick or an opportunity to really support them and be there, for want of a better word, their loving environment, their cheerleaders that actively come in. So your story needs to show the stakes so that people really get why they need you, which, if they've already said yes in the call to action, just confirms for them that they've made a really good decision. If they said no or they're hesitant at the call to action, it really helps them go, oh my God, they really do know their stuff. Maybe I'll just do that, right?
Yeah.
And then,
And I
yeah,
think in that stage, it's really good for you to have the examples of the case studies of how this has happened. So you can illustrate, when people do take action, what happens, but also what happens when they don't. And
yeah,
that person that didn't take action might have been you.
yeah,
So it might have been how long you were stuck for and how many things you tried that didn't work. And then when you realized what you did, that then got the result, that's where it was. So we need to be able to bring this to life with case studies, examples, stories that really illustrate the point.
yeah. So Diane, yes, you can absolutely see this on a replay. And in fact, if you're inside the Connection Hub, which I think you are,
It will be
it'll be
pinned
the pinned post for the next week.
for
So
the
you'll
week.
literally be able to kind of do that. And May's saying, so the cost of not buying the Juicy Rituals, which is her amazing course for the over 40s, mainly women, but men can definitely benefit too, is to become the dried raisin on
Dried raisin.
steroids, which is fantastic. But that's what happens as you start the aging process. You don't want to be a dried raisin, right? But so this actually ties into the very last step of the 7. So a character has a problem, meets a guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action that helps them avoid failure and ends in success, i.e., not being a dried raisin, which is this whole piece around, just because you know what's possible, you have to lay it out for people. Never assume that people actually understand how your brand can change their lives. You've got to tell them, you've got to lay it out for them and explain just how great their lives are going to be as a result of either working with you or doing your particular program. So offer the vision of what their life is going to be like once they've actually done it. Oh dear.
No, it's just May's Juicy Peach. I love it. That's what dried raisin on steroids versus Juicy Peach. Which one do you
I'll
want to
take
be?
the peach. Give me the peach, I tell you.
Hannah, we just look at your stuff, right? Because you're thinking so literally or around the desserts. Think about the people that think that they can never have anything sweet in their life again. Think how depressed they are, that they think they're trying to lose weight, that they can never touch anything that tastes good, looks good, and is sweet and satisfies that sweet craving in their mouth. That they don't, they think that they're going to have to be deprived of that all their life. That healthy just means green salads and eating like a rabbit, which it doesn't. What you're teaching people is these vegan desserts and how they can complement a weight loss program, how they can basically boost their energy by really good nutrients in food, but the food tastes really great. There are so many people out there that have cut sweet things out of their life and they're missing it, and it's had detrimental effects on their mindset, their concentration, their mood, all these types of things. So we'll go into it in Changemaker with you, but it's not just about, do I do a dessert course or do I not, right? It's not as literal as that.
So if you wrap it up, so I really hear that whole, can I type out the whole sentence? So I will type that out and I will put it inside Changemaker, the Connection Hub, and on Speaker Insight, so that we make sure that that actually works.
Yeah, so what we want to make sure is that really the key for both the Joseph Campbell stuff and for what we've just gone through with the brand story is that you need to really clarify what your messages are and what the key to your messages are. What's the point? How are you bringing your avatar along the journey with you? Where are you at the journey, and how is the focus that you're making on that course, that book? What's the message that you're attempting to give and the legacy that you're wanting to leave before you move on to the next journey to take another set of avatars or another stage of the avatars through the journey. So what you've got created here can be used for your products, for your brand story, your marketing, your bios, your stories, your keynote, your signature stories. Tony's going to write a song about that model. What we want to make sure is that there's a couple of key points for you to acknowledge where you are on the journey and to give yourself permission to be at that stage. If you're feeling like you're cooking because you're in the, I can feel another adventure coming on, then notice the symptoms. Know what you need, as Helena said. What got you through the last adventure? What mentor helped you through the way? What tribe of people was around you as a support? And then when you've got that, be really clear that you're showing, you're being that guiding light. You're showing your avatar what the steps are, how you've been successful, how you're going to help them, how you're going to fast track them, and what the consequences are if they don't come on that journey with you. Yeah. And you can do that all through the verse of storytelling in various different guides, which we've even got training in the Connection Hub around how to tell stories in that sense as well. Yeah. But these are where you're going to grab those key messages that can be used in all of your marketing material.
Yeah. So I think we have given you loads of food for thought. For those of you who've stayed with us right throughout the hour, we hope you've had a good lunch and that you're going to do something with this. So please, please, please come back into this thread and really go, you're probably going to need to do a little bit of reflecting. So whether it is going and looking at your homepage copy, whether it is actually laying out what are my experiences and where did I experience the known and the unknown? How is this showing up in the products that I've got? Could I tweak things with them? We'd love to know what you do on the back of this. So whether it's a year down the line and you're actually doing this, we still want to know. So absolutely.
Was that a call to action, Helena?
That was a call to action. Oh my goodness me. And then you will, the tweaking obviously will set you up for much better success because, the more we pay attention to the little things that we can tweak and nuance, the easier it is for you to do business. And that makes you a change maker, right? So we'll send you off into your either known or unknown for the day. And we will catch you next week. Hang on a second. I need to press some buttons. Here we go. Many blessings to all of you. Bye.